Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Untitled Reviews. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are dramas. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Shōgun Season 1, Episode 3. Another great episode. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So let's start off with the opening, which I love. Yabushige is just kind of like, alright, I signed my will because I'm about to meet with Toranaga. I know that he's going to kill me. He's already been a little suspicious of me. It's like, once again, Yabushige thought he could get the other one over, but it's like, nah, like Toranaga saw you for who you were, and it's like, I want to meet with you. So they end up talking, and it's like, what did Ishido was at your estate, so like, what did he offer you? Did he offer you like a seat on the council? That's what that's what he said. Like, that's what he offered me, but it's like, that's not what I want. I want more. Was it reef? It's basically like no. Fief, I think is the word. I always forget it. But basically, it means just like land and more like ownership of land and stuff. And he wants a particular bit of land. And Toranaga's like, I won't take your head. I will actually do this for you, but you have to help me get Lady Kiri as well as the Ajin Blackthorn out of here because we need to get them somewhere safe. And it's like, all right, so what I need from you right now is just watch the morning the sunrise, with me. So they enact their plan. I love the whole bit between Mariko and Blackthorn where it's just kind of like he's getting his armor repaired. He's like, oh, is this guy a warlock or something like that? Then it's like, oh, would you feel more comfortable if he's so tense? He needs the doctor's like, he'll need a woman, to pillow with him. And she kind of explains that. And he's like, he's more of a pimp than he is a warlock. And it's like, oh, would you prefer a man? And he's like, dear God, where am I? So they plan to move out, but Ishido shows up. Because I was so curious where everyone's roles were going to be in this because, as later on Mariko puts it, Toranaga is pretty crafty, and we've seen that so far. He's very tactical, and he knows how to play a situation because he's very good at reading people and what they're going to do. But I was wondering what role Lady Kiri was going to play. She was meant to be there just so that when Ishido showed up, because he knew, like, there's no way Ishido's not going to show up here and without, like, making sure, like, he hears word of people leaving and the Ajin being moved. It's like, he's going to come investigate stuff. So, first he sees Hiromatsu's granddaughter in the first one, and I was like, are you going to switch that out? Like, because I wasn't sure what role Lady Kiri was supposed to play. Her role is to be switched out with Toranaga. I was like, that's actually pretty crafty. But it's like, yeah, like, let Ishido see that it's Lady Kiri because he was thinking he was being tricked. But it's like, oh, no, it's actually Lady Kiri. Oh, be on your way. Good on. But I'm also going to leave some of my men. It's like, no, you don't have to do that. It's like, no. Lady Kiri's involved, which makes you go, did Toranaga count on that? He probably, who knows? There's so many variables in this situation that I don't know if he accounted for that because it would benefit him to have Ishida's men. Granted, you would have to deal with that later on regardless because even things that play out the way they did in an episode, you would have had, like, you wouldn't have been able to keep up that ruse forever. So I don't think that's something Toranaga was probably counting on, but Ishido probably thought, like, you might have something up your sleeve. I don't fully trust you. I know you enough, Toranaga, to know you got something up your sleeve, so I'm gonna have some of my men here. Or maybe it's just a thing of, no, it is Lady Kiri, so I'll go. I don't know. It's unclear, because he probably did have his own plans, but who knows. Obviously, Yubishige is trying to act like, no, I'm still loyal to you, Ishido, but it's like, obviously he's not. Once again, Yabushige is like, he's very fickle because he goes along with what benefits him. He's that type of person. It's actually interesting because Mariko and Blackthorn had that conversation about Toranaga because he had talked to the heir, was that in episode 1 about, like, oh, he was used as a hostage before, and because of that he learned a very important life lesson at a very young age, and we learned that what that life lesson is this episode, that basically, and it's a lesson he tries to impart to his son as well. It's like, you can't trust anyone in this life, in this game of friends and enemies. All you can ever do is count on yourself, which is a very isolating thing, but it's what keeps you alive. Never fully trusting anyone because no one on his squad knew what he was doing. It wasn't like Blackthorn and Mariko caught on at the last second only because they saw, like, oh, the switcheroo happened. Even Blackthorn was smiling, being like, oh, so that's what's up. No one in that squad. Yabushige didn't even know. Hell, even later on, he's like, yo, next time you're about to do a plan, let me know before you actually go through with the plan. He's like, I'll keep that in mind next time. It's like, yeah. It's like, right. It's not even keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer type of thing. I mean, maybe there's a little bit of that to it, but it's like, keep your friends and enemies close and tell none of them what you're really doing, type of situation. So I thought that was kind of fascinating. Some other details I want to circle over to. When it comes to Hiromatsu's granddaughter, she's the one whose child had to be killed in the first episode. We see the boxes, and even Hiromatsu says, like, oh, I'm sorry, obviously your dad, he had to work hard to get these swords, like, I guess, like, because I know Korea and Japan's circumstances go back a long ways, but I think I always underestimate how far back that goes. Because I guess in my head, I only think about, like, the more occupational time frame, but it seems like obviously that's a long, very deep history between Japan and Korea that I'm not aware of, like, the lengths of how long that I'm sure obviously to some extent it's probably not as bad, but I'm sure that even to present day there's still definitely bad blood considering everything that's going down. But either way, tensions and all that aside, but yeah, your dad kind of died fighting in that war, in fights against Korea, and these swords are kind of all that remains of him, and you also lost your husband and baby. It wasn't until I was like, because I knew the husband was trying to commit seppuku in the first episode, but I didn't realize that he still had to die. I thought, like, okay, the baby's death was going to be the price to pay. It's like, no, she lost everything. That's why she knew, like, no, I don't want to be the one left, but she's the only one left. And that situation came up before, at least that we're aware of, with Mariko, where I think her dad died, but she wasn't able to die with him. Like, I guess, like, there's no other family. She still has her son and her husband, but maybe that was before, because that was like 14 years ago when her dad died. So it was probably a thing of her new purpose became, like, getting with her current husband and having a child. That became her new life, maybe. So she knows, like, what it means to, and she knows what it's like to be in Hiromatsu's granddaughter's case. But yeah, that's why the boxes are the way they are. The small one is their child, the bigger one is her husband. Like I said, I didn't understand that he was still going to die regardless, and it just makes that even harder of, like, I don't know, like, having to carry that grief alone. I mean, she still has a grandfather, but it's still her grief that she doesn't even have her husband around to hold that with her. I mean, it's his fault that this all happened, so it's like there's all kinds of complicated feelings. But Hiromatsu told her, like, she still had, like, a role to play. Like, this, your father had his war, your child and your husband had to go off for their fight. This is your fight now too. So at first I wasn't clear what her role is, but I guess it's like she's meant to be the misleading factor in all of this, where it's like, oh, like, Lady Kiri is here, so once you see her, maybe you won't think too much of looking to actually check on Lady Kiri. Maybe that's what Toranaga was kind of accounting for. It's like, oh, if you see it, because I was like, I thought the switcheroo was going to be like, oh, we're going to switch the cards, like put Kiri here and then Lady Hiromatsu's granddaughter, like, in the where Lady Kiri. I thought, like, maybe it was going to be a switcheroo of, like, she was supposed to sacrifice herself for Lady Kiri. That's why I wasn't understanding what her role is, but I guess that's what she was meant to do. Like I said, just kind of dissuade any situation. But the problem is when they were about to leave, the guards still searched them, and obviously Blackthorn made a whole stink about it, because obviously Mariko told him, like, yeah, if Toranaga's found, he will be killed in this moment, as long as all of us as well, because for one, he's not supposed to leave, and breaching that bound of being, like, bound to Osaka, it's kind of an issue. So, but Blackthorn put up such an issue of, like, oh yeah, like, women, like, it's improper, how dare you do this, and Mariko kind of helps him sell it. And I even love her husband being like, that's the men we're supposed to be protecting. But yeah, he tells her, like, no. Like, in London, there's plenty of, like, ladies of the nights and stuff like that. Even saying, like, friends like your doctor who, when you have an injured guest, you basically want to hook them up with somebody. And they had this whole metaphor about, heaven and rain. It's basically meant to be like a whole like a very poetic metaphor for orgasms. It's like that's the closest you can actually get to heaven and stuff like that, and it's like, because that was even a point that Blackthorn was making, like, yeah, like, that's the, he's like, I've just never heard it put so poetically, because obviously, like, it's like because she was trying to make this point of like it's actually good for you, like having that like physical companionship is an important factor of life. It's kind of like the point she was making, like just from their perspectives on the whole situation of kind of to lay down with someone in that regard. But at the same time this is all happening, the Captain General is being told by Martine that yeah, you can't really leave because we need Toranaga's approval to leave. He is the one that handles a lot of the foreign stuff. But like, if you leave, getting back to Japan will not be easy. And like, we depend on this. But the Captain General's like, I'm not going to lose the win. I need to go now. So he's very stubborn about it. But it all kind of works out in the end. Well, on his side of things, but also not really. But we'll get there in a second. But on their way to leave Osaka, the problem is they get attacked by Kiyama's people, and in the process Toranaga has no choice but to reveal himself. And in that moment, Ishido's men are like, wait, it's Toranaga, we need to kill him. I was kind of hoping that Mariko's husband would have been able to kill that guy before he was able to get back to Ishido to let him know like what was what, but sadly he wasn't able to. But yeah, because even Kiyama's looking like, oh, but there's Ishido's people down there. He's like, oh well, they'll die alongside the heretic. You think that cause issues later on, but I guess it's like, right, he's kind of got himself covered by being like, oh, some bandits and they went wild, and having no, like, even though he's behind all this, like trying to make it seem like he wasn't. So because they're not his men directly, so he's able to kind of use them as scapegoats, just like Yabushige used bandits, hired them, and then immediately killed them to get rid of any like trail that could lead back to him. Same tactic. So, but obviously Mariko joins in the fray, as well as Blackthorn. Obviously, she's a lot more skilled at fighting, and her husband stays behind to kind of draw the enemy away as they make their way to the boats. And obviously, just as they ultimately end up leaving, her husband makes his way to the, and Blackthorn's like, no, we could go back, but they can't and won't. And so he sacrifices himself. He kind of looks to Mariko, he looks to his lord, and just kind of bows. And it's just like, they have a complicated relationship. I think it's all kinds of complicated, because it's like, she has her feelings about him. I'm sure it's like, it's a thing of, it wasn't really love, it's probably you were put together, and he isn't always the nicest person, so there is a conflict of, do you love him? Like, maybe in his own way he does love you, so, but he's willing to make this sacrifice. And it's like, that's the thing of like, are you too hard? Like, does she, because it's like, how can you tell what's in someone's heart? Like, does Marco actually does seem sad about his death, but it's like, is she very heartbroken? And she's like, oh, it sucks that he died, but it's like, is she, that's why I'm like, I don't know, like her relationship with her husband, we haven't really gotten the ins and outs of it, and maybe we'll kind of go back to this at some point in time and kind of discover like what their circumstances are. But it just, there's so much story there we didn't get to tackle, that I'm curious like how she felt in that moment, how she feels now after all of it. So, because her and Blackthorn had the whole conversation about like, right, that's your husband, your only child, he has a son and he has a daughter. Before they even got to that question of like, oh, what are they like, they ended up getting attacked. But they made their way to the black ship, and that was going to be their way out of Osaka, because they can't use their ship because there's people blocking the way, and you're like, damn it, like if we go through this, they will sink our ship, because it's Kiyama's got people like waiting just to strike. So they make a deal with the black ship, but the problem is that, it's the dealings for the most part work in their favor, because Toragana is like willing to put a church in Edo, which Martin's like, dude, that's pretty big, but the person he's kind of like speaking for it too says like, we can't really accept a bribe, but we could approach it, like he's trying to worm his way around to being like, oh, we can't directly take it, but I mean we can kind of prey on it, and kind of, it's like, yeah, just shut up and accept it. Like you're trying to worm your way around it, trying to use your religion to be like, no, we're not directly, because that would be sinful to directly accept it, but we can pray to God and kind of let it all, let the chips lie where they fall type of situation. But the problem is, another asterisk to this whole thing is that Blackthorn has to stay behind in Osaka. And it's like, well, him being on his own here in Osaka is signing his death warrant, because it's like, he stays here, he's as good as dead, like, you know. But Blackthorn doesn't take that taking down, so he starts racing with the other ship, which I love him and Rodriguez's whole back and forth. But what was it initially? It's like, hey, you're still alive, Inglis. It's like, yeah, how's your leg? Fine. How's your mother? Dead. And Rodriguez is like, oh, almost like, oh, sorry to hear that. So there's something I love their little back and forth, and it's like, oh yeah, like the devil's os, like you had your lips on the devil's os. It's like, oh, your mothers were there first, and it's just like, like there's something about their back and forth I really love. But my understanding of the whole sequence, and maybe someone else has a better understanding of it. Obviously, they're not going to attack the black ship. It's too important to trade for Japan. So that gives Toranaga safety being up there. But the problem, like, now that Blackthorn plans on using his ship, if he can ride alongside it, they won't attack his ship, is kind of my understanding. Because it's right next to it, you don't want to end up causing problems for Toranaga's ship, because that's the black ship, and that's what the issue mainly is. So it's like, right, let's kind of go at these people. They won't attack this ship. They can't do anything, and he's kind of coasting alongside them. But the problem is that the Captain General wants to push him towards some rocks and destroy their ship. But given the opportunity, Rodriguez kind of like bails out a little bit, because he's like, nah, I owe you one. This is my way to kind of pay you back for I mean, you're the reason why I'm still alive. You know, Yabushige, yeah, help me, but if you hadn't thrown me that row, I wouldn't be alive right now. So I owe you. So, but I love the aftermath of that whole situation. Blackthorn being so happy and proud of her, because obviously they can't understand him, but he's like, you glorious bastards, and they're all looking up like, what the hell is he saying? Because none of them can understand what he's saying. But yeah, he's just like proud. He's like, oh my god, you guys did it, we did it, we're alive. A lot of things worked together in that moment. It's like, if it wasn't for Rodriguez, like, you know, but it all worked out, and his tenacity even impressed Toranaga, and even Mariko is kind of happy as well. And so Toranaga's like, well, now that I don't have to worry about our pilot being stuck in Osaka, I'm gonna get back on my own galley, and you can kind of go your own way. So the plan is for him to head to Edo. We still don't know. He's keeping a lot of his cards close to his vest. Well, we know that did the heir's mom, like, because the whole point was to like release her, but I don't remember if she actually made it back to like Osaka or not. I don't remember, but like I think the heir is still in Edo, so that's one piece to this whole situation. But yeah, back in Osaka, Ishido is confronting Kiyama about everything, and it's like, well, you're the one that kind of let Toranaga get away with the Ajin, but it's like, if you hadn't done what you did, like, you're the one that, like, I would have, like, Toranaga wouldn't even be alive right now. He'd be removed from the board, like, literally dead, and I would have been able to personally hand over the pilot to you, but no, you had to kind of go your own way. Obviously, you're playing right into Toranaga's point of, like, making division amongst them. So Hiromatsu shows up and is like, oh, I have a message from my lord. He's respectfully removing himself from the council. They're like, yeah, that doesn't mean anything, doesn't change anything. He's still going to get impeached and we're going to have him killed. But it's like, well, actually, you can't, because the way the previous Taiko set it up, all 5 of you have to vote, and that's kind of a moot point, I guess, in twofold. One, now that Toranaga's not here, all 5 of you can't vote, so you're kind of bound by the way things operate. 2, Toranaga bowing out as a member of the council, it's still, like, I don't know how you interpret it. I mean, I guess it's a moot point all around, but it's still like yeah, this is the way things are, and Toranaga's not here, so you can't properly vote. But also him bowing out as a member of the council, meaning there's only 4, but there has to be 5. I don't think they can put themselves in a position of, oh, we can put someone else in that council position. It's like, well, you can't, because I guess it has to be Toranaga's position. So, and if he's not dead and him officially bowing out, like, regardless of, like, the actual specifics of it, they can't make a move right now. So it kind of puts them in a compromised position. So it's kind of a stalemate. And I guess that also protects any people that are connected to Toranaga like Hiromatsu. I guess like it protects anyone like that who might be still in Osaka. But I guess eventually they'll make their way back to Edo, and it's like you can't really do anything right now. So kind of got outfoxed by Toranaga. And so we have like a little bit of a conversation between Mariko and Blackthorn. John basically explained that it's like, right, I talked a little bit about my daughter. I actually left England before my daughter was even born. And it's like, he's like, now she would be 2 years old. He was kind of saying like, she's like, oh, well, you're bound by the honor of your lord. Your lord asked you to do something. But he's like, I didn't do this for the queen. I did it for myself. I wasn't even asked. Like, I don't know if it's like, I think he was saying he's not even asked to do this. This is something he decided to do on his own because he had liked adventure, like more than the depths. He wanted to see the horizons, and even more than the horizons, he wanted the freedom. It's just like, it's one of those things of so much. I guess it's like that's even more motivation to go back. It's like I made this decision on my own, and my daughter's kind of going to grow up without me. So am I going to just die out so far away from home, never knowing my daughter? We don't know what his relationship is like with his son, how old his son even is. He didn't really get into those specifics. We only know his daughter's 2, but we have no idea how old his son is. So I think there's a lot to that. And so kind of showing like, I guess kind of playing into that piracy of wanting the freedom of the open sea, no land in sight type of situation. And I guess there's something to that even Mariko can understand, like I mean anyone can, but like that freedom, like I think it's something that really resonated with her, and I think probably resonates with Toranaga too. But Toranaga had gotten those journals from Martin being like, oh yeah, you're a pirate, but piracy would mean death, but it's going to take a while to translate these, so it's kind of like giving obviously Toranaga's putting all that aside because I guess it's like, yeah, you're a means to an end, and I guess it's like I'm not going to worry about that too much because I've kind of skirted the line with things with my recent actions. So because they also didn't want, because they were reluctant to have Toranaga have all of those journals and entries and stuff because it also brings up some stuff from their past, and so they didn't want the entire thing translated. So they might have removed the stuff that they didn't want Toranaga to know about. So, but that's once again maybe a moot point at this point. So, either way, there, like I said, the squad is making their way to Edo. I always forget, so do correct me in the comments down below. I believe Edo is what is now present day Tokyo, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it was like the capital back in feudal Japan. I always forget that, but I think it is. But like I said, I could be. I always feel like I'm getting that wrong. But either way, tensions and all that aside, and they want Blackthorn to be in charge of teaching the men how to, like, using like his tactics and stuff. Even giving him a different name. He's no longer the barbarian. He's, what's it, Hatamoto? It's like, yeah, it's kind of like an honorable name. So obviously I Googled it. Obviously a lot of people were probably having the same question about what that necessarily meant. It's specifically about, apparently it loosely translates to Bannerman, but basically the Hatamotos were like the inner circle, upper echelon when it comes to the shogunate, and they're kind of like their lord's inner circle, kind of showing like how important it is. Like obviously it doesn't mean as much to because he was almost like, oh, okay, like because it doesn't translate, but it's like, yeah, it's supposed to be a great honor. He doesn't know like the scale of what that means for, especially someone not even being Japanese. Like it just, my point being like it's even more of an honor. So because we even learned that Mariko's husband had like a very specific name too, because I don't think it was he a Hatamoto? I think he had a different name, didn't he? Either way, when it's all said and done, they had that whole bit where it's like, oh, like he wants the Toranaga wants Blackthorn to teach him how to dive, and he's doing it over and over again. He's like, no, do it again. again. It's like, how many times do I have to do this, Marco? It's like, until our Lord is satisfied. And he's about ready to do it himself, but then he's like, okay, so tell him, like, I want to race to the shore, you know. And it's like, Marco's like, yeah, don't let our Lord win. He doesn't like that. And John's like, I wouldn't let him anyway. Too prideful. And just for the end on this moment, them looking towards each other and then diving, there is something beautiful about that. It's almost like Toranaga has a friend. There was even a whole conversation about Maruko saying, like, oh, you don't have any friends. He's like, oh yeah, the captain of this boat, I know him. I think he's the dude that they were on the ship with when Rodriguez was bringing him to Osaka near the end of the first episode. I think that's the same cap. I think that's what that was. But it's like, yeah, I have friends. But it's like, yeah. Oh, he's also going to get his men released. I forgot about that. And he wants his ship back and his men released by helping Toranaga. So, once again, that all depends on if he's able to make it back or not. So, we shall see where all this ends up taking. But there was something beautiful about that ending of the episode, them just like racing in the water. It's just like kind of like this moment of kind of like mutual respect from Toranaga. Like I said, he's bringing you into the fold. I mean, once again, whether he'll tell you everything or not, who knows? Because he obviously didn't even tell his own son a lot of stuff, and his son's being sent back to Osaka to kind of keep an eye on things. And it's like, yeah, because his son's supposed to like train up another regimen. But it's like, yeah, but I shouldn't I be by your side? Like, shouldn't I go to someone else? I should be by your side, Dad. It's like, why don't you trust me? Once again, that whole lesson I brought up before of like this game of friends and enemies. Like, you can only rely on yourself. So, hey, it's going to be interesting to see where the next episode takes us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.